So, leadership today isn't about doing more, it's about knowing what actually matters and having the clarity to lead from that place. If you've ever felt successful on paper, but stretched thin, overwhelmed, or quietly questioning your direction, you're not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Hope, and welcome to Lead with Clarity and Purpose, the podcast where strategy meets leadership, and where confident, values driven leaders come to realign how they lead, work, and offer their impact to the world. Welcome to episode 2. And with episode 2, we're going to be talking about the cost of lack of purpose. I'm going to repeat that. We're going to be talking about the cost of lack of purpose. You may be a leader today and watching this episode and you're wondering, okay, purpose. I've heard of purpose. I know what purpose is all about. I'm glad. But successful leaders understand what purpose is and what it looks like. But sometimes it's missing. The leaders, who have the titles, they have the compensation, they're at the top. They have everything it takes. They have the skills, they have the credentials, but something is missing. And what is missing is purpose. And when I'm talking about purpose, I'm not just talking about it being your passion. I'm talking about it being your clarity, it being your North Star, it being what it is that you need to operate in your day-to-day. Because purpose is not just about a feeling, not just feeling good or feeling excited. It's more than that, but it's having that completeness because you know who you are. Not only do you know who you are, you know what deserves your energy in this season. So we're going to be talking about what does it cost? What does it look like if I don't have purpose? So before we go even further, let's have a reality check on what purpose is. Purpose, it's like I said, it's not about I'm feeling excited today or what's motivating me today. Purpose, it's really about you knowing what matters right now. What's important? What deserves my energy right now? And in this season that I'm in, what do I need to do to accomplish what needs to be accomplished in the now? That's what purpose is. It's beyond what excites me. It's beyond what keeps me motivated. But it's really about me looking inward and asking myself. So as you're watching me today, I'm asking you to look inward and ask yourself, what deserves my energy in this season? What matters to me now? Because this present moment is what matters. It's not what mattered yesterday. And I'm not even talking about tomorrow, but I'm talking about today, this moment. So that's what purpose is. But what happens when you don't have purpose? A lot of things happen, leaders. Decision fatigue. What does that look like? Too many decisions to make. And if everything matters, you know what happens when everything matters? Nothing is clear. Your team doesn't understand what matters anymore because there's just too many things going on at the same time. Time is another thing that can cost you. Your calendar is booked with meetings. But I ask you, are those meetings on your calendar all activities, or is it about impact? Only you can answer that. If your calendar is filled up with meetings day after day, day after day, you've got to answer that question. Is this all about having activities, or is this about having impact? What impact are these meetings making through me, through you as a leader? The third cost is that cultural drift among your team, even you, with you as a leader too, because there's lack of purpose, there's no clarity on where we're going. What ends up happening is your team becomes tired. They're tired because they're burnt out. They begin to drift because there's lack of clarity. They also isolate. They're not able to communicate. They're not able to meet you where you're at because they don't understand what's important anymore. So if you recall at the beginning, I asked you, I created a reality check for you on what purpose might look like for you in this season. Or maybe you have your North Star. If you have your North Star, fantastic. But the lack of clarity of what that North Star is can create that cultural drift, where then your team begins to feel, I'm not able to share things anymore. There's no psychological safety because they're not able to speak with you because they don't just understand if you hear them. And another thing that begins to happen, they begin to feel micromanaged. Why? Because remember decision fatigue? Everything matters. So it's hectic. Nothing is clear. Everybody's reacting. Not proactive, but everybody's just reacting to the fire. So if you're a leader, hearing this, watching me, listening to this episode, and you're experiencing all of these things, the reason those things are happening is simply because there's lack of purpose, and that's the cost of it. When purpose is not clear, or when you don't know what your purpose is as a leader, all of those things, all of those factors that I shared with you, of course. But what happens when we make a shift? As a leader, when you know who you are, what matters to you in this season, specifically, what matters in the role that you're in. You know, you're a leader, or maybe a mid-career professional, or you're an executive, a C-suite leader. You are at the top. But there are days you feel exhausted. That's the side other people can't see. That's the side that you experience privately. You feel disconnected. You feel alone, burnout, because you feel like you need to be everywhere. You need to be in every meeting. You need to be able to make every decision. So my question to you is that in alignment with your purpose? Because those factors that I named, decision fatigue, time, your time is gone. There's a cultural shift, there's burnout. All of those things lead to not having purpose. See, if you're silently in your own corner, or in your office, or in your home right now, watching this episode and say, you know what, Hope, you're nailing it. I'm glad. But here's what can happen. Here's the shift. Here's what you can gain when you lead with purpose. When you lead with purpose, you're able to make decisions. You're making decisions because you know what matters. You don't feel scattered brain. Why? Because you know what decision that you need to make. Time on your calendar, you're the only one that can control that. And it's not about managing your calendar, but it's about you leading your time. Because you know your purpose, you're able to lead your time. You know what meeting is important to go to. You know what needs to be delegated. You know what needs to be on your plate right now. And you know what does not need to be on your plate right now. You're leading not out of fear, but you're leading because you know what matters to you in this season. When you have clarity, you know what happens? You're able to set boundaries. You're setting boundaries not because you want to set boundaries. You're setting boundaries because you're protecting your time. You're setting boundaries because those boundaries are really for your protection, for your freedom. Because when you have purpose, you're not leading out of fear. You're not leading out of burnout. You're not leading out of stress. And it's beyond a feeling of, I feel good today. It's beyond that. But it's about certainty. How? Why? Because you have clarity. See, if you, as a leader, as you're watching this, and you say to me, Hope, yes, I am one of those leaders that's feeling burned out. I really don't have time. I don't have time for strategy. My question to you is this. What is your purpose in this moment? What is your purpose in this season? In the role that you're in? What matters to you right now? What about the team you're leading? What matters to your team right now? What's the vision that you're carrying? Is there clarity around that vision? Is there clarity around who does what? What's in alignment or what's not? Is there clarity around those things? Because when you have purpose, when you understand whose you are, and not just whose you are, but your role today, you have your time back. You've set boundaries. You're able to delegate. You're able to think clearly. How? Why? Simply because you know your purpose. You know why you're where you are right now. So it's about directional leadership because you know how to lead. You know what drains you and you know what deserves your energy. When you understand your North Star in the role you're in, you're able to think clearly and know exactly where you need to be and where you don't need to be. That's just a simple fact. So I ask you, leaders, do you know your purpose? And as I say that, because purpose is everywhere. Everybody talks about purpose. I don't want you to feel that it's this fluffy thing. But really, this is what sets you apart as leaders. This is really the foundation of anything, whether it's at home or at work. So purpose really, really matters. Because it's beyond titles. It's beyond your credential. It's beyond how much money you make. Purpose really matters to make a difference in your own personal life as a leader, in your own organization, with your team. To make a difference, you've got to know, what is my purpose? You are in the role you're in for a reason. You are in the role you're in for a purpose. Not to run, but to lead with strategy, to have time for strategy. If you find yourself in the weeds, constantly, day by day, in the weeds, what does that say? Most often leaders say to me, Hope, I really don't have time for anything. I'm in meetings morning till night. I don't have time to even pay attention to my team. So I ask you, leaders, just think about that. Reflect on your specific role right now. What are you optimizing? What are you optimizing right now? Think on that. Because only you can decide and know what it is that you're optimizing. Number 2, what decisions are you delaying making simply because you don't have clarity? What decisions are you just simply delaying, procrastinating on because you don't have clarity? Maybe that thought crosses your mind and you push it aside because you don't want to deal with it. So I'm asking, what are those decisions that you are delaying on making a decision on? And after you have uncovered those decisions, I want to ask you, where are you leading out of obligation instead of intention? Just think about your day-to-day. Do you find yourself leading out of obligation? Are you leading basically out of people pleasing? Yes, leaders. Yeah, I'm calling it out. Do you find yourself leading just to people please, to look good for a moment? Or are you leading out of intention? Only you can answer that. When you lead out of intention, amazing things happen. I want you to sit and reflect on these questions that I'm asking you. I gave you I gave you 3 questions. What are you optimizing right now? Only you can tell. What decisions are you delaying due to lack of clarity? And then number 3 was, are you leading out of obligation instead of intention? You're leading out of obligation just because it's something I have to do. And I understand. There are just certain things that we are obligated to do as leaders. But it's the work you're doing. Is it simply out of obligation, or is it based out of intention? And I'm going to add this part too. What if you led with intention? What would happen? What would change for you? I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your comments. You can share with me your thoughts, your comments right here within this episode here. Share it. And if this episode resonates with you, it's touched a part of you. Number 1, I'm glad that it has. I want you to share it. Share it with someone. Share with another leader that you know this would benefit, or that you know is struggling right now, struggling to put your head above the water or above the weeds. That leader that you know is feeling overwhelmed, just not sure what their purpose is in the role that they're in. That leader that you know is constantly in the weeds, but looking for a day, waiting for that day that they will be able to put their head up so they can have time for strategy, have time to meet their team where they're at, to provide their team with that opportunity that just right now they don't have time for. So if you know that leader, or if you are that leader, I want you to know that this is what we do at Dr. Hope Solutions. What we do is helping leaders lead with clarity and purpose. Feel free to connect with us. But beyond that, I want you to like this episode. I'm encouraging you to share it in your network. Build somebody else up. Give this value to someone else. And also subscribe. Until then, continue to lead with clarity and lead with purpose. See you soon.